I was supposed to have sex with him. He always told me that if I loved him, I had to show him by letting him hump me, is what we called it back then. I would just close my eyes and wait for him to get up. He said if I ever told anyone, they would send him away and he would do worse things to me. Well, I got tired of him and I tried to tell my mother, but she wouldn't listen to me. Instead, she beat me. She beat me so bad that I had grubs all over my body. And I ended up at the bus station in Boston waiting for her, and she never came. She never came to get me, but someone else did, and that's another story. So who came to get me was a pimp picked me up at the bus station. Because I didn't, I was sitting down there for hours hungry. And I would call my mother's phone and she would never answer, so. That's when our real turmoil began.
The man put money in the TV and we watched a few programs together. Then he got us some food and some drinks. And he got me to laughing, and before long we were like old friends. The man called one of his lady friends, Ginger, to come join us. She said I could spend the night at her place and we would keep calling my aunt. So the three of us went to a hotel. I went to Ginger's room and took off my coat.
Little girl, are you pregnant?
T came in the room and told me he had talked with my aunt. She wasn't coming to get me. He said my mother wouldn't let me come back home.
You could stay with us, and a pretty young girl like you could make some money.
T told me.
First, we have to get rid of this baby.
So they gave me a shot in the stomach and took me to the city hospital where my baby was stillborn. Ginger told the people at the hospital that she was my mother. I stayed high on cocaine, and T arranged for men to sleep with me. Sometimes Ginger and I worked together, and the two of us made lots of money. All of it went to T.
That's it.
Thank you, Elaine. In the 7 classes I've had, there have been, I would say on average, 1 or 2 women in each group out of 12 who don't have a story of being sexually abused as a young child.
Because I never had the right person to talk to. But Miss Elaine, I could talk to her about anything without her judging me. I love her to death.
When you're talking to her, you don't see her wandering off about others. You don't see her wandering off. She give you her attention. She give you your listening ears, and you know she's listening when she can repeat something that you said 2 days ago. And it's just like, I love her because she listened to me. And she don't try to put her story with my story. She don't try to make it feel like, oh girl, I've been there before, don't worry about it. She actually listens to how I feel. I love her.
I think she kind of like the hippie type, free spirit, Most people wouldn't do what she doing, Well, I know she don't get paid or nothing. I think she just like doing it out the kindness of her heart.
I think there's a seat left there. So these are the actors and musician, director, stage manager.
Like sometimes we know one thing about a person and then we think we know that person. But you get to hear stories and you realize there's a lot more there.
There's no difference between where you are and where I could be. And as I listened to all the stories, I just immediately saw myself. I was like, oh, that was me, and oh, I was in that situation, or it could have flipped in any kind of way to be me.
I've never sat in front of a group of people that I would be speaking for, and I think there's a lot of respect that comes out of being able to share what people go through and to have your walls broken down when all you've ever known are walls. And so I feel very honored to be here.
We are no worse than other people. The people on the outside, we ones who got caught. And the worst part of being locked up is we are forgotten. Disposable people thrown out like yesterday's lunch leftovers. Feels like no one out there cares.
It was a hot Memphis day in June. I got into a heated argument with Cedric. When he put his hands around my neck, I couldn't breathe. He let me up and I went in the house and got him out. He ran and I chased him up the street. So while I'm chasing him, he stopped and talked to a girl. I hollered at him from the bottom of the hill and told him I was going to hurt him. So he started running again. I caught up with that girl and we had some words. I started to walk off, but the girl grabbed me and we tussled. She got stuck and died later in the hospital.
The clinic refused to give me an abortion because I was 21 weeks. Labor pains woke me up one morning and I called a friend to take me to the hospital. Then I smoked some dope and drank some liquor and waited till she got there. I barely made it to the hospital before my son was born. The nurse asked me if I wanted to hold him, and I said no. She says,
At least give him a name.
so I said his name, Elijah. And that's when I turned my face and I looked at him, and he was beautiful. The nurse put Elijah in my arms, and I kissed him, and I said goodbye. I checked myself out of the hospital and I got a ride home. The state sentenced me to time in jail for abandoning Elijah. Well, I'm serving a life sentence of remorse and regret. And I pray every day that Elijah was adopted into a nice family and that he knows that he's loved.
My daddy called my mama cheating. They got in a fight, pushing, hitting, yelling and cursing. My daddy went right out the front door, and my mama slammed the door right behind her. She leaned up against the closed door, breathing heavily, still yelling, still cursing. Then her eyes fell on me, and I saw her arms. Her arms were coming for me, and I thought she planned to hug me, hold me, and reassure me that everything was going to be all right. Instead, she grabbed me up, opened the door, and threw me right out the porch. I rolled down the stairs and she hollered at my daddy, "And don't think I'm going to let you leave this thing behind for me to take care of!"
You laughed, we cried, you cheated, you lied, you gave me up for good. You left me in gloom, I never lived with you again. Just saw you every blue.
Too many people tell kids the only thing they need to know is how to survive on the street. Kids get taught how to be tough, and they don't learn how to read. They can't even imagine a better world.
I imagine a good life on the outside for me and my kids. There's so much more to me than the crime I committed. I plan to live a life I can feel proud of.
My past does not determine my future story.
I don't know, it just felt like a great big burden lifted off of me, and I just feel so happy and just like, wow. You know, it's just amazing.
It made me grow up more, you know. I have 3 children, and I just feel like, I know this is not a place for me, and I refuse to come back here. When I get out, I'm going straight ahead. I'm walking by faith and not by sight, you know. And I'm not going to the old things that I left at home, because I'm a new person now.
Taisha Smith.
Women, you played your part. You have planted the seed of life here forever in our hearts.
Miss Elaine, she make you feel like someone. She lets you know that this is not your end result, that you can turn this negative situation into something positive. She gives you hope, and I'm thankful for Miss Elaine. Thankful for her.
Everybody? Yes, ma'am. And I'll give shirts.
As a society, we have to decide, do we want to treat people well and someday come to a place where we're all safer? Or do we want to have 2 classes of people? People who matter and people who don't. Any comments about the work here in the green?
Surely. I'm curious how the women are chosen. Like, do they volunteer? Are they chosen by people within the system? How does that work?
I'm going to tell you the truth, and then I'm going to tell you what it's supposed to be. Truth is, it's rather random.
Okay.
I go in and I bring the refreshments and all the stuff that first class and sit down, and 12 women walk in the room. And supposedly there's some process, but it's quite random. This last time I got tickled in the 9th class. I came in that first night and I put the refreshments out, you know, and I was putting the books out and stuff, putting the chairs in a circle, and you can tell what area the women are from by what color their scrubs are. So white is from the mental health unit. And so this woman came in young, long red hair, just a kid, really, white outfit on. She goes and she sees those cookies. She goes, hey, could I have some of these? I said, well, those are for the women who are going to be in prison stories class. She said, what's that? I said, well, it's a class. We meet twice a week for 4 months and share our stories. She said, yeah, and then you get cookies? And I said, uh-huh. And she said, well, I'll share my story. I'll help myself with some cookies. And she was in the class the whole time. Now she's just passing by.
Okay.
Do you have a continued prison ministry?
I don't think of what I do, thank you for your question. It is ongoing, and I don't think of it as ministry. People call it ministry, and that's all right, but I like a chance. I like people to ask me that so I can say, I have never considered this ministry. I never mentioned God. I never mentioned religion. I never give people advice or any kind of religious materials. I come and I listen. And the God and the goodness and the creative spirit in every human being is able to be heard, noticed, valued, and respected. And so it is ongoing. And right now I'm writing curriculum to be published and purchased by people who would like to do the same kind of thing in other settings with marginalized people. So it can not only be where I can physically be present, but other people can physically be present doing it in other places. Yes?
I noticed in the, I guess it was the stage performances of it, not the one that they did in the prison, but I guess the stage performance. I noticed that all of the women were really kind of the dress. You know what I mean? It seemed like there was a
sameness, a uniform,
or an intentionality on the type of dress, and it wasn't. You know, it seemed to be what I would kind of term as kind of prosperous dress, kind of that type, you know what I mean? So it really seemed in stark contrast to the scrubs of the prison, and so it was interesting to me that you had the women who were on the stage kind of dressed that way. I was wondering if there was a reason for that, or what you were doing with that.
Back at the first time I did this, now when I first went into the jail, I knew nothing about jail. I knew nothing about who I'd see there or what the folks who worked there would be like. I just had this idea. I think if you let people share their story, they'll find the story to tell that sets them free. Can I come in and test this theory? So here I come. Well, boy, have I had an education since that day in January of 2010. One of the things that happened was that Jazz Miller, a beautiful woman, creative actress, writer, just a lovely person, came to jail with me. And she's African American, and she had her hair done with a beautiful scarf, very colorful. And when she came into jail, one thing, Jazz is beautiful, for one thing, but that scarf, she came in, and I watched the women in the jail look at her and that scarf. And that was the first time I noticed it. This hunger for color. Like if you didn't give me any water to drink all day, if you were in charge of me and you withheld water, I'd be so thirsty. Well, we put people in jail for years, and it is this military green color and gray. Their bed, their floor, the walls, the food is kind of yellow and gray, and the tray is gray. Everything's gray. And so Jazz had this scarf, and it was like feeding their soul. And one day, I like to grow flowers, and so this was back when, you know, you printed pictures off before everything was digital. So I had taken lots of pictures of my flowers in my backyard, and that day I went to the jail and I gave each woman a picture of a flower in my backyard, and we wrote for 15 minutes about that, what we see in this picture, what that makes us think of. And when the class was over and I was picking up my stuff and leaving, one of the women said, can we have these pictures? And I said, oh, sure. And they said, thanks. And I looked around the room. This dadgum photograph of a flower was a huge gift, a stimulation to something that was starving. So, in answer to your question, then I decided at that first performance that we would wear dark clothes, dark pants or dark dress, dark skirt, and top it off with some kind of brightly colored scarf. And so the actresses dressed themselves accordingly. Long answer to your question, thank you.
I want to know what inspired you to start this type of work with the ladies?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that. Because I have been rejected and dismissed and belittled in my life. And I know what that feels like, to not be heard, to not be respected, to have no voice. And I went to the jail because I have also had the experience of being heard, being included, and being respected. And I know what each side of that, and the only thing that happened in the middle was somebody looked at me, listened to me, and said, oh, but you do matter. So I just took it to the jail. I thought, who most gets, discredited? Probably moms in jail in our community. Probably are the people who get the least respect. So that's where I started. Now, I've also done this with people who are HIV positive, men who have recently been released from jail, Vietnam veterans, and kids in the school. So, this process works with people.
Elaine, I know that you said you don't call this a ministry, but as I said at the beginning, would you just say a brief amount about the ways in which your faith intersects this art form?
Yes. I know it's funny when I say it, but it's the truth. I've tried to fit into other people's organizations and to have a job like other people, and get up and get dressed and go to work. I've tried that. And I just don't fit in other people's organizations. So there is a time when I felt like, well, I'm just a failure. I just got too many mental health problems. I can't succeed in this life the way it's set up. But what happened with me is I began to see that that's not the case. It's just that I have to have enough courage and faith to trust that I have something valuable to contribute to the world around me. I'm an artist, and I don't necessarily fit in any square or any peg that institutions and organizations have set up. And I find myself very grateful for the pain, for the times that I've been rejected. I think there are probably artists out there who make great work who have not known deep pain. I think it's possible. I don't know them, but I think it's possible. I do think that the reason I'm able to contribute in the way and with the energy and with the imagination that I have is because I have hurt. And out of that hurt has come great beauty. And it just is a part of my relationship with God. I believe that I was created by God to help God create more good in the world. And God and I are partners in this. You.
Okay, so in the video you said that if kids spend their weekends going and visiting their parents, that becomes the norm. But when they had the play, I saw children in the audience. What's the difference in visiting every weekend and becoming the norm and going to see mom in a play? What?
Yeah, I wasn't criticizing it. I'm just saying what the reality
I was just
is.
wondering, is there a difference,
Children come and see their mom, at every performance, and I think the whole audience, public audience, and the in-house audience gets a chance to revision who this person is. So for the children, and there are always somebody's kids are there, and I think the children get a chance to see mom be a star tonight. And it is, pardon me?
Mom gets to come home.
Yeah.
One more? Somebody that hasn't already asked one?
How have you been
Okay, we'll do two more.
How have you been changed
How have I been changed?
through the ministry?
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, not the ministry.
That's all right.
The work.
I really don't, I'm not saying I don't like it, I'm just saying that it's not the way, but other people do, and I guess it is a ministry. I think of it as a theater project. So, how have I been changed? Immensely. I think I've moved from feeling like a misfit into feeling, it's like the ugly duckling. I feel like I found my place, my family. And there was somebody at Edie.
It's two parts. One is a small comment, I'll follow up on the scarf thing. I think dressing the actors well helps us humanize the people in jail because there's a bias. When you look at the way people are dressed, you judge them. So if you take that away and you dress people nicely, then there's an opposite notion. Oh, this is a person like me for the audience in public performance. And the second part is internship. Question mark?
Yeah, I had an intern, thank you for asking, this last time, and that's a whole new piece of the pie to have an intern beside me. But yes, there's always a place for help, if that's what you're asking.
Volunteering.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you, what, Lisa?
I just want you to share what you shared with me once about what happened when the music came in with you. The women's reaction to hearing the classical music that was played.
Oh.
You remember? You remember that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Christmas Stories 8, the Memphis Symphony Orchestra worked with me and went to jail with me, and they brought their instruments. And so the way it was, we'd have our circle, and you can't come, if you want to come to jail with me, the rule is you cannot be an observer, because I don't like that. If you come, you're going to be vulnerable, and you're going to talk about what hurts in you. And if you can't do that, then, there's other places. But anyway, so the symphony knew that, and when they came, they had to talk about who they were and what hurt, and losses they've had, and failures they've had. And so they did, and boy, I'm just telling you, that whole 4 months was amazing. But they would bring their instruments, and so I'd save time at the end, and we'd move back, and it takes a lot of room for a cello. And so they would set their instruments up, and they would play. And the first time that they set their instruments up and they played, you know how the string musicians go, just kind of finding, they just go, and the room was totally quiet, and tears just started pouring down the faces of the women. Like there was something in the sound of those instruments that just opened up this river of pain. So, yeah, there were lots of folks falling in love with musicians during that time. Thank you so much for your
Another opportunity, if you need your colloquial credit and have not signed this page, please do so. I also want to encourage you to go to elaineblanchard.com, and you can see more about Elaine's work at that website. And just as we're closing, I just want to say in regard to what she just said about the music, this is why it is important that our seminary has a theology and arts program, because the arts in some way touch that God part within and help us to get in touch with the reason that we were created. And so thank you for being here today. I want to thank Elaine again for your work and for being with us. Thank you.